It's wonderful to look around and see so many familiar faces. Here is an appreciative welcome to all gathered here. Invited guests, delegates, peers, colleagues, friends and students. All fellow travelers on this journey of sharing, discussing and deliberating through the 2 days of our national seminar on women empowerment, revisioning identities, and building strategies for a participatory society. The words women empowerment get various kinds of responses. One is, yes, more power to her. And the other, oh no, these feminists, there they go again. The detractors believe that feminists are aggressive women out to disturb the patriarchal order. They fail to see that feminists are both men and women who believe in the equality of the sexes and work in support of women's rights and interests. For that is the way for a better life and a better world. It was former UN General Secretary Kofi Annan who said, and I quote, "There is no tool for development more effective than the empowerment of women." Dale Spender voices my feelings when she says, and I quote, "Feminism has fought no wars, it has killed no opponents, it has set up no concentration camps, starved no enemies, practiced no cruelties. Its battles have been for education, for the vote, for better working conditions, for safety in the streets, for childcare, for social welfare, for rape crisis centers, women's refuges, reforms in the law." If someone says, "Oh, I'm not a feminist," I ask, "Why? What's your problem?" Unquote. I'm quite in awe of the collective expertise gathered here in the De Noble Hall, and I'm deeply honored to welcome our acclaimed guests once again. Light and brightness has always been associated with positivity, motivation, and the harbinger of good. Light also symbolizes the presence of the Almighty in our midst. In keeping with the tradition of auspicious beginnings, we will now have the lamp lighting ceremony. For this, I now invite our chief guest, Honorable Justice Srimati Anjana Mishra, guest of honor and keynote speaker, Dr. Professor Daisy Moran, Chairperson Ms. Nivedita Jha, our Principal, Father Dr. T. Nishant S.J., and convener, Ms. Mala Upadhyay, to come forward for the lamp lighting ceremony. The flame to light the lamp is being brought by our Vice Principal, Dr. Father Martin Porus S.J., from the Sarva Dharma Samabhava Prarthanalaya, the sanctum sanctorum of our colleges. This will be followed by a prayer.
our mother and father. We humbly ask you to bless each one of us, speakers, committee members, guests, and participants. Guide us to deliberate and respect each other's opinion and views. As we incorporate what we will learn throughout this seminar, thank you for your infinite blessings and countless opportunities. Lord, today as we are about to begin our seminar, may we always be grateful to learn new things, shed the light of your wisdom, and bless each one of us to make this seminar a success. This we ask in your name. Amen.
Supriya, for such a beautiful rendition of the song and the prayer. I now request the chairperson, Ms. Nidhika Jha, to kindly come up on stage and take her place on the dais. Our chief guest, Honorable Justice Anjana Mishra, ma'am, you are requested to come up and take your place. I now invite the guest of honor and keynote speaker, Dr. Professor Desi Narayan, to take her seat on the dais. Father Dr. T. Nishant S.J., Principal of St. Xavier's Colleges, and the Chief Organizer of the seminar, to take your place on the dais. Ms. Mala Patna, convener of the seminar, kindly come up and take your place. Thank you. Dr. Father T. Nishant S.J., Principal of St. Xavier's Colleges, Patna, and the Chief Organizer of our seminar, gained his PhD degree from Mumbai University. His research was on the Musahars, cultural life of Dalit community in Bihar. He received his postgraduate degree in advanced sociology from Delhi University and graduated from Madras University with a BSc in physics. He started his professional career in 1988 as a teacher in Ara Catholic High School, Vice Principal, Xavier Teacher Training Institute, Patna, Principal, Xavier Jesuit Training Institute, Bangalore, Assistant Director, Manthan Social Training Center, Patna, Vice Principal, St. Xavier's College, Patna, are other positions that he has graced. Apart from teaching sociology to postgraduate students for 11 years, he has 5 years of experience in conducting classes on English as a second language. He has attended various conferences and conducted workshops. Father Nishant is a member of the Admission Committee and Grievance Cell of Aryabhat Knowledge University, Patna. His current academic involvement is in publishing a book on the cultural life of the Musahars in Bihar. Father, I now request you to formally welcome everyone and address all present here.
It's my privilege and pleasant task to welcome you all to the 6th National Seminar ever since we started the college in 2009. Emboldened and encouraged by the success of the last 5 national seminars, We have taken this year a topic which is very relevant for all of us today. Women empowerment, revisioning identities, and building strategies for a participatory society. In recent years, we have witnessed an unprecedented eruption of various types of violence on women, especially rape of young girls in our country. We are at a loss to understand the reasons of such inhuman and satanic incidents. Such happenings corrupt the very soul of human beings and endanger their existence. Women are not considered worthy of a dignified life. It is evident that the causes of discrimination and violence on women are deep-rooted cultural constructs. As academicians and educationists, it's our duty to deconstruct these cultural constructs so that women and men can be truly empowered. In this context, the discussions, deliberations of these 2 days on this topic will be highly fruitful and meaningful, and I sincerely wish that this does not remain merely an intellectual exercise, but a motivating force for snowballing a series of changes through which women can live dignified lives. We have distinguished guests to assist us, to trigger our thoughts and imagination as we venture exploring the different dimensions of this topic. Permit me to welcome our chief guest, Honorable Justice Anjana Mishra. She had her early education in St. Joseph's Convent School, Bandipur, Patna, one of the well-known Catholic schools in Bihar. Capitalizing on her sound early education and legal background of her parents, she has contributed much to the cause of women, especially in the implementation of state policy regarding inclusion of women lawyers as public prosecutors in all district courts. There will be a longer introduction of her a bit later, and so for the time being, I stop here and would like to request Reverend Father Joseph Tadavanal S.J., the Director and Vice President of the colleges, to offer a floral bouquet and a memento to her. The guest of honor and keynote speaker for the day is Professor Daisy Narayan. I'm told she's also a Josephite. Okay. An eminent professor of history department from Patna University and president of PUCL Bihar. Starting her teaching career in Patna Women's College in 1980, she has gone beyond her discipline to other areas like women's studies, education, environment, human rights, etc. It's truly fitting that we have a woman of this stature to deliver the keynote address. May I request the finance officer, Father Alphonse Casta S.J., to welcome her with a floral bouquet and present a memento to her. The chairperson of the inaugural session is Ms. Nivedita Jha, a media person and the president of South Asia Women in Media, Bihar Charter. She is also the working president of National Federation of Indian Women. Ms. Nivedita has received the Laldi Media Award for Gender Sensitivity 2010-11 for the Best News Report. She has contributed much to the empowerment of women through her reports, studies, researches, and so on. We are truly blessed to have you with us. And may I request Father Dr. Martin Paulus SJ, the Vice Principal and the co-chairperson of the National Seminar, to offer a floral bouquet and a memento to her. So in the days we have all these empowered women, and I'm the only man, blessed am I among women. I would also like to welcome all other dignitaries, delegates from various colleges of Patna and outside Patna, and our dear students to this national seminar. I'm sure all of us together can make this discourse truly fruitful and productive. Thank you, Jai Bharat, Jai Xavier.
We all know your deep concern for women's rights and the building of an egalitarian society. That's how we laughed here on this day with all the women here. We now await the release of the souvenir. Assistant Professor, Xavier's College of Management and Technology, Patna. A quotation from Ayn Rand's classic, The Fountainhead, albeit tweaked. The question isn't who's going to let me, it's who is going to stop me, describes her best. I now invite Ms. Mala Upadhyay, convener, to address this august gathering.
Today, while I'm standing here on this podium, I'm going through a gamut of human emotions. I'm feeling blessed, grateful, privileged, fortunate, inspired, and motivated. The reason is quite obvious. It's not every day that we get an opportunity to converse with such distinguished minds and luminaries from the field of education, law, media, and learning, all under one roof. A very good morning to our guest of honor and keynote speaker, Dr. Daisy Narayan, Head of the Department of History, Patna University, Patna. Our chief guest, Mrs. Anjana Mishra, Justice, Patna High Court. Our chairperson, Madam Nivedita Jha, social activist and media person. Organizing Committee Chair, Father Professor T. Nisant S.J., paper presenters, participants, invited guests, colleagues, and my dear students. The identity of women in India and in the world at large is marred by the socio-economic, political and cultural forces. As a result, women continue to remain on the margins. Their contribution to the society go unnoticed or undervalued. In this context, the upcoming seminar, Women Empowerment, Revisiting Identities and Building Strategies for a Participatory Society is of great significance. It is an attempt to reconstruct the identity of women and move towards a more participatory world. To understand civilization, we need to understand the position and status of women in the society. For almost a century, women in India have been suffering from disability, discrimination, injustice, and inequality. The natural difference between male and female is actually converted into socially constructed differences in terms of acceptance, role, participation in the construction of a just society. The concept of empowerment and participatory society will remain compromised unless we bring women to the center and create an enabling environment where men and women can work together. Through this seminar, we do not pretend to be elaborating a new empirical model of participatory world. Instead, our aim is rather to highlight the structural elements that would enable any given social system to develop into a more participatory community. Such a development can only be initiated by a conversion of minds. No external coercive power can create such participation. We need to overcome our own conditionings and move from an oppositional force or the margins of public discourse to a wider movement with majority support and participation. This seminar invites research scholars, academicians, professionals, social workers, and all those who are interested in lending a helping hand in the process of taking an initiative towards women empowerment. I request all of you to extend a helping hand in making this seminar success. I am not going further into the topic because our eminent keynote speaker, Dr. Daisy Narayan, is definitely going to unfold the different shades and nuances of the theme. A conclave of this magnitude serves to bring the sharpest brain together, thereby creating a plethora of perspectives, views, ideas, informations, and innovations. It's a platform for scholars to share their intellectual capital, for the researchers to move ahead, adding value to these capital, and for the students to understand the world of knowledge discovered so far and to be ready to choose their directions and explore more of such knowledges. This is our 6th national seminar, and I'm thankful to the Almighty, and I'm grateful to all those who have worked towards shaping this seminar. I thank you all with all humbleness for taking the trouble to come here for this seminar. We strive to make your stay over here comfortable. I hope that this seminar helps you forge new alliances and connections with our college. I also hope that the multidisciplinary approach to the topic, the deliberations, discussions that take place in the course of this 2-day seminar will generate noble ideas, provide fresh insights, not remain statistics in the books of records, but is definitely going to help in bringing about some transformation into the society. Thank you, Xavier.
There is a stubbornness about me that can never bear to be frightened at the will of others. My courage always rises at every attempt to intimidate me. Immortal lines from Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, expressed in 1797, so very relevant even today. Maya Angelou, when speaking about herself, said, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive and to do so with passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. And this partly describes, I dare say, our keynote speaker. With the permission of the chair, I would like to introduce our guest of honor, Dr. Professor Daisy Narayan. Presently the head of the PG Department of History, Patna University, and President, People's Union for Civil Liberties, Patna, is a multi-talented, multifaceted personality. Teaching since 1980, first in Patna Women's College, and then in the Postgraduate Department of History, Patna University. She is a university topper with a gold medalist both at the graduate and postgraduate level. She also engages classes in PG Diploma course in Women's Studies, in UGC refresher courses in different PG departments on topics like population and gender. Professor Daisy Narayan is also invited as a resource person in orientation courses to Academic Staff College on gender empowerment. She has presented papers at many national and international seminars, co-authored a book, and edited a number of books and magazines. She has written articles on subjects as varied as history, education, including environment education, human rights, child rights, and women's rights. And today, as we converge to discuss on the topic of women empowerment, to establish the main underlying theme, and to summarize the core message, I have the honor of inviting Professor Daisy Narayan to deliver the keynote address. You'll always be Daisy B for me. Daisy.
Thank you, Nisha. Nisha has been with me in Patna Women's College for quite some time, and I know how good she is in not only organizing seminars and workshops, but she's very good in presenting a topic through various forms of media, particularly documentary films. And I think we're a wonderful person with you, Father Nisha. So thank you so much, Nisha. Father Dr. Dishan, Justice Anjana Mishra, my friend Nivedita, Mala Upadhyay, and I've got many, many friends who are sitting in front. Jasmine is here. Because of Jasmine, I visited this college on early occasions also, because you've been organizing regular seminars, and Jasmine has been inviting me as a speaker or as a chairperson of a particular session. And all the other students, some of you I met while we were having the PUCL convention on the 16th and 17th of this month. Thank you very much for inviting me and for giving me this opportunity to deliver the keynote address. This is a huge area basically, women's empowerment, and there is a long history of both the struggle to establish women's identity, as well as the historical phase in which the struggle has gone on, sometimes unnoticed and sometimes noticed by the contemporary or the later-day historians. You see, feminism, as it has been described earlier, basically means a desire to change. There are many words that that are being used now, we refer to women's centers, we refer to the word gender, and we also use the word feminine or feminization of, say, politics or of education or of society and so on and so forth. When we refer to this gender as women and talk about Women's Studies Center, the specialists say that we are referring basically to the biological construct of the woman. And therefore we talk in terms of two genders, the male and the female. In the Western epistemology, there is a huge emphasis that is given to bipolarities. It is light and darkness, a boy or a girl, or a male and a female. But now in between we also have areas or different shades that lie in between. For example, today the Supreme Court has legalized the LGBT laws also. And we are trying to accept their identity in our society and to give them the rights that they deserve. Women's struggles are usually referred to sometimes also as gendered struggles. Now the word gender is a construct. Father Nishant just now mentioned about construction and deconstruction. We also have something like reconstruction. Now in the case of gender, a woman's role is socially identified. For example, when a child is born in a family, the boy has to behave according to certain norms, and girls have to behave according to the specified norms developed by the family and the society. So therefore the girls are dressed differently. They are taught how to laugh and not laugh loudly. They are taught how to sit not with spread legs but with closed knees. They are also taught how to eat and to eat the last in the family after the men folk of the family have consumed or eaten their dinner or breakfast or whatever. This is not something that women are born with. This is something that is socially developed or they are socially trained to be doing this. And when you shift from these norms, it is said that you're not functioning according to your gendered role. For example, now there's a film and a TV show also going on, Jhansi Ki Rani. There's a very famous poem, Khoob Ladi Mardani, वो थी झांसी वाली रानी या झांसी की रानी. Now while depicting or while describing the role of the Rani of Jhansi, the writer could not refrain from mentioning or using the word mard. So she fought not like a woman, she fought not like a human being or an individual, but she fought like a Mardani. So whenever women go out and do something which is different, and it fits into the norm of the male gender, then we usually say that she's gone beyond the parameters that have been laid down for her, and that she has functioned or behaved as a male member of the society. This is gender. And when we talk about feminization, then we talk about maybe a protest, discussion, or the realization of the need to bring about changes in the society. A person who is interested in the development of women need not always be a woman but can be a male. For example, in the colonial period, we came in touch with the Western civilization and reacted or responded differently. Sometimes we reacted against the Western civilization. Sometimes we acted in response to the Western civilization and their norms. In the early part of the 19th century, these responses became very evident, and this is the period wrongly or rightly described as the Renaissance that India was undergoing or going through. We then had a number of male reformers. And all of you must have heard, so we'll use some of the common and the usually mentioned names. Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Or for example, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. In Western India, Jyotiba Phule. Now these reformers talked in terms of women's emancipation. But as the very noted political scientist, we have incorporated him and his ideas and history also. His name is Partha Chatterjee, and he is written and is the author of the very famous book, The Nation and Its Fragments, where there are 2 chapters which talk about woman and the nation, and the next chapter speaks about nation and its women. So Partha Chatterjee says that a difference was created between the outer world and the inner world. The outer world was the area where British imperialism had established itself. And Indians were willing to accept the fact that they were technologically and industrially inferior to the West. To learn and imbibe the technological knowledge of the West was accepted by the reformers of the period. But the inner world was the household. And then they argued that in the inner area or the inner world, we are stronger than what the Western civilization is. Here they said, the intervention will not be allowed. We will not allow you to encroach into that domain which is entirely ours. And that is the household. Any reformation that needs to be done, if changes have to be brought about, those changes will be initiated by us. So when we talk about women's education or the rights of women in terms of social and economic rights, we are sufficiently empowered to be talking about all these. And therefore, so in the initial phases, the reformers, if you can term them as male reformers, also spoke about women's education. They fought against practices like sati. They fought against evil practices that still continue and is a huge area of concern for organizations like UNICEF even today, and that's child marriage. Bihar has the lowest, or I can say the highest evidence of child marriage in this country. So this was one phase of the movement that began. But as we proceeded gradually all towards the 20th century and the middle of the 20th century, feminine voice became heard, feminine voices became more vocal and became more stringent. But before I come on to this period, I would like to speak a little bit about how identity, or a woman tried to establish her identity even from the earliest period. Sometimes recognized and sometimes not recognized. I was just going to the souvenir, and there was this line in which reference was made to women and the power of the women in the Vedic period, especially the later Vedic period. You see, most of the books that we refer to, the Brahmanical books in particular, were written by male writers. They perceived and they wrote according to what they thought about women's rights and women's emancipation. So if there were 20 women in the Rig Vedic period who could compose hymns that was considered to be sufficiently good for the Orientalist historians, and that is how we know the history of this period. Some of the Orientalist historians like Coldbrook and Coleridge gave a lot of emphasis upon the right of the women to educate herself in the Vedic period. But that is a misnomer really, because by the time we come to the later Vedic period, we also come across references to women like Gargi, who entered into a debate with the very famous sage or the sadhu or the seer, the teacher, Yajnavalkya. And Yajnavalkya was repeatedly asked to answer certain questions that Gargi had raised in the Sabha of the king. Yajnavalkya could not answer these. And subsequently he threatened Gargi and said that you sit down or I shall inflict a physical harm on you. The Gargi episode has been blown out of proportion to tell the later generation, which is what the Orientalists were trying to do, the Orientalist historians, that in the earlier period, in the Vedic period, women were educated and they had certain social rights also. For example, the very important right to raise her voice against her own marriage, and after she becomes a widow, to enter into a relationship with one member of the family, male member of the family, which is known as the Niyog relationship, in order to have a male child or to produce a male child for the family. What happens with this kind of history writing is that even now when we talk about, under the present system of governance that we have in Delhi, we are talking about women's rights and always focus back on the Vedic period, and our leaders today, the politicians of today who are dominating the Delhi scenario or the larger political scenario of the country, keep talking about Vedic seers and Vedic women. There were certain, surely, very educated women in the Vedic period. But Uma Chakravarti, the very well-known feminist historian and sociologist, says that we must also consider about the Dasis. Father, as it is said, has done work with Dalit women, and he researched on Dalit women. Similarly, Uma Chakravarti did her research on the Dasis of the Rigvedic period. She said these are also women. These were women who were conquered or brought as slaves by the Rajans or the Rajas. And when we come across the list of items described as property in the Rigveda, the first of course was the cattle, and the second is that of the Dasi. So the Dasi becomes an item of property. The Dasi worked in the household. The Dasi or the Das was still not used for the larger economic productions. A very famous article, for which she is very well known, and people read her articles and praise her for that, is what happened to the Vedic Dasis. We talk about the Vedic seers. We talk about the Vedic rishis. We talk about women who were educated then. But what happened to these Vedic Dasis? Do we talk about them? The problem is we do not get any literature that refers to the plight of the Vedic Dasis. But soon after, as we progress in history, there is a huge change that comes about in the Indian society, especially in Eastern India, where we are living. This was because of the development of the heterodox sects that opposed orthodoxy. One sect that I would like to talk about, there are many sects here, is Buddhism. And in Buddhism, if you look at Buddhist philosophy and the Buddha's teaching, the first book of the Buddha's teaching that was compiled later is the Vinaya Pitaka. In the Vinaya, Buddha places restrictive norms on women. There are 8 restrictions that have been enforced by the Buddha on such women who enter the Sangha, despite the fact that the Buddha did not really like women to be entering the Sangha and becoming Bhikshunis. Buddha was forced to do this because his disciples said that there's no harm in giving an opportunity to the women to become Bhikshunis or to become members of the order or the Sangha. But the Buddha said, the teacher said, that 8 norms they would have to follow. I just mentioned one norm that he laid down, and that was a bhikshuni, no matter what her age is, even if she's 60 or 70, she has to rise and pay her respect, show her respect to a Buddhist monk who may be 8 years old but is a male monk. This was the attitude of the Buddha. But the Buddha's larger teaching changed the concept that women had about themselves in the society. And that led to the first composition by women, and this is very important. Normally what we do is to read about women through the male authors. But in the 6th century BC, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first literature in the world that was compiled by women, known as the Therigatha. Theris mean the Buddhist bhikshunis, the older bhikshunis of the Sangha or the order. I just mentioned one little poem that a bhikshuni whose name was Metta, M-E-T-T-A, writes. Metta says that after a long period of time, she's now independent and free of her husband. She's now independent and free of the household tasks. She is now independent and free of the mortar and the pestle which bound her to the daily routine of the household. So here she's talking about emancipation, about freedom. And this is the notion of freedom that she has. The freedom from the household from where she wanted to be emancipated. Subsequently, she leaves the household and she joins the Sangha. This is a revolutionary step in the context of the 6th century BC. And in this context, we can refer to the Buddha also as a revolutionary. Because in the Sangha, he created a counterculture. A counterculture which was different from the larger culture that prevailed in the society. So when Metta enters the Sangha, she experiences the freedom and the emancipation that she had always longed for when she was in her husband's household. So this is a collection, about 54 or 55 theories have composed small little compositions, and this has been compiled into the Therigatha. There's also a main version of the book which is known as the Therigatha too. As we progress further in history, we find that women also have economic rights. They have a certain identity in the household and claim economic rights from the family. In the Rig Veda also, there's a woman called Apala. And Apala fights with her brothers to say that she belongs to the same father and the mother. And if the brothers are getting an equal share of the family property, Apala should also get an equal share of the family property. So the concept of the property and the right to property that a woman should have begins from very early times. In the post-Vedic, in the post-Buddhist period, we find that women are donating money for the construction or land for the construction of the Buddhist Sangha. You cannot give donation unless and until the property is your own. And there are frequent references to the queens and members of the royal family, or to the wives of the rich merchants, the Vaishyas, who are donating money and land for the construction of the Buddhist order or the Buddhist Sangha. This means that along with their educational rights, they also now have or claim economic rights. We do not have much of an information in this period whether the Brahminical society was giving similar rights to women or not. In the Buddhist society, women were claiming to have their own identity and establish their own footing, both in the family as well as in the larger society. Skipping a little bit and moving ahead, I would love to discuss with you a character in history, and we're all aware of this character. Kalidasa's famous drama, the Abhigyan Shakuntala. Shakuntala is a character, a very strong character, who's there also in the Mahabharata. Bharat is the son of Shakuntala. Bharat eventually becomes the ruler of the universe, as it is said. You see how concepts regarding women begin to change. In the Bharata, which later becomes the part of the Mahabharata, the entire compilation took about 1600 years. The final compilation takes place in the 3rd century AD, while the earliest version of the Mahabharata, known as the Jaya Samhita, belongs to 1000 BC. By the 2nd century BC, we have the larger epic called the Bharat epic. Here, Shakuntala is an extremely proud young woman. She's there in an ashram where she's enjoying life with her friends. Dushyant comes hunting and sees Shakuntala. They both fall in love with each other and enter into what is known as a Gandha relationship. There are 8 forms of marriages in India, 4 accepted. Gandha is sometimes accepted and sometimes not accepted. For example, in the Kama Sutra, Gandha is the most ideal form of marriage. In the Bharata, in the Mahabharata, Shakuntala enters into a Gandha relationship with her husband Dushyant. But Dushyant has to go back subsequently to his own place, and this is the difference between the Aranya and the state form of governance, that is the forest rule and the state rule which exists in non-Aranya or non-forest land. Here the state system was coming up, and Dushyant goes back to the state system where the norms are different as compared to the norms that exist in the Aranya or in the jungles. Now Shakuntala is sent by the Rishi to the court of Dushyant. To cut it short, that is, the story is longer, but to cut it short, she goes to the court, a very free woman, a very independent woman, and she argues out her case in front of Dushyant. She says, "You married me," but Dushyant, because of another sage or a Brahman, had lost his memory. But she reminds him that you married me and now I am with your child, and therefore you will have to take me into your household. Subsequently, there is a divine voice, and Dushyant suddenly remembers everything that had happened in the forest and takes Shakuntala as his wife. Now this is the episode that is there in the Bharata. Now see what happens in Kalidas. Kalidas is difficult to pinpoint Kalidas. But if we leave aside all the controversy, Kalidas would belong roughly to about the 5th century AD. So when Kalidas was composing his Shakuntala and composing the drama, how does he depict Shakuntala? Shakuntala is there in the jungle and the earlier story follows. It's similar to the Bharat episode. But when she goes to the court of Dushyant, to the state system that then prevails, to the court of Dushyant, her face is covered by a veil. Interesting. We talk about the Parda system starting in this country when the Muslim invaders come in. This is how gradually we communalize history writing. Shakuntala's face is covered by a veil and Dushyant does not see the face, and so Dushyant does not recognize Shakuntala. And Shakuntala is very meek, stands there with her head, with her eyes, looking down on the floor, not looking up at Dushyant as Shakuntala in the Bharat episode had done. Then subsequently various conversations follow. The fish is caught, the ring of the Dushyant, the fisherman gets the ring, and Dushyant gets back his memory. So this is the reconstruction of women's identity as situations change, as periods change, and as the social economic norms begin to change. So in the Bharat episode, Shakuntala is a proud, young, defiant woman. By the time we come to the Abhigyan Shakuntalam of Kalidasa, she is a shy woman, a shy girl who enters into a relationship with the king of the clan and later tries hard to prove that she is the wife of this king, Dushyant. Eventually there has to be an intervention by a fisherman and then everything falls in. So this is how women's identities have been created over a period of time. But was there ever a conflict? Was there ever a kind of outrage to the position that the women had been placed in history? If you look at the Bhakti movement that comes later on, the Bhakti movement challenged some of the established norms of Brahmanism. And the women who were there in the Bhakti movement came out to be greater challengers. For example, Akka Mahadevi of South India. She wore no clothes. She did not believe in hiding her body. And she speaks to Shiva by saying that you are my Parama. I'm married to somebody else, but I'm in love with you. I will stay in your temple, worship you, and she discarded her clothing. If I can mention another case like that in northern India, for example, Lal Ded of Kashmir. Lal Ded is a Bhakti saint, very popular in Kashmir, especially his songs. And Lal Ded in Kashmir also decided to discard her clothes because she thought that those were norms established by the human society. Now this is a kind of revolution. Revolution need not always have a bloodshed or a violent revolution, but this is a silent revolution that was taking place in the society under the influence of the Bhakti philosophers. But so great was the influence of Brahmanism that subsequently the Bhakti saints had also succumbed. Before I end, how identities were established in the modern times. I spoke to you about Raja Ram Mohan Roy's period, little bit on Vidyasagar, or on Jyotiba Phule, who was fighting for women in Western India. Let me speak a little bit about the modern times. In the modern period, women began to assert their identities. Feminism becomes a subject, and feminist scholars like Gerda Lerner, Gerda and Lerner, wrote a book on patriarchy, talks about how women were subjugated in the society, coming very close to Engels' theory of origin of family, property, and the state. Engels speaks about the early society, where everything was shared by every member of the society. But steadily, the society becomes unequal. The male members exert their rights over the female members, and therefore we come across the concept of productivity and reproductivity. Productivity will also always be spoken as an area where the male predominated, and reproductivity was the exclusive area of the females. So reproductivity would bound the woman to the household, and productivity would take the male out of the household into, say, agrarian lands, agricultural lands, or to industries or to factories. Gerda says in her book that if the subservience of woman can be traced historically, the independence of women have also to be traced on an historical basis. She says that the first fight would have to be against patriarchy. The concept of patriarchy is that the male begins to dominate all institutions of power. Unless women enter the institutions of power, they cannot establish their identities. This is what Gerda believed in. Going a little back and going back to Europe, because not everybody knows this, is the French Revolution of 1789. In the French Revolution of 1789, after the revolution had taken place, there was an oath that was taken in the tennis court, and a document was drafted known as the Declaration of the Rights of Man. In 1791, another declaration came. This was drafted by a woman called Olympus. And Olympus drafted a declaration known as, we do not teach this even now in history, because even now the history books are so predominated by what the male perceives as history. So this document that Olympus prepared or composed is known as the Declaration of the Rights of Women. So it is from here that the political rights of women began to be asserted. There's a huge fight in the world, or all the countries in the world, regarding the right of the woman to vote, the suffrage rights. India got it a bit too easily and earlier than even some of the Western nations. But coming back to the Indian context once more, Lerner's book has had a tremendous influence upon Indian reformers or Indian female reformers. The Indian feminist movement, the modern feminist movement, virtually begins with an incident of rape in police custody. This was the rape of a young tribal girl in Maharashtra, whose name was Mathura. Mathura was about 16 or 17 years old when she was nabbed by the police. She was taken to the police station without any female police being in the unit. And in the police station, she was asked to stay the whole night without any, again, a female constable. She was raped in the prison itself. She was raped by the policemen. So those who were supposed to be her protectors eventually proved to be her oppressors. Mathura's case was taken up by the feminists. The feminists lost the case in the Supreme Court. But the feminists again appealed in the Supreme Court. Finally, the Supreme Court heard the appeal of these feminists and spoke in favor of Mathura, and then after, a slew of reform measures in terms of laws which would be friendly to the female or to the women. Therefore, now the laws that we have says that the woman did not prove her innocence. It is the rapist who has to prove that he has not raped the woman. So the onus of responsibility shifts from the woman to the male. The other struggles that went on in Delhi. There were two major areas of struggle. One was Maharashtra and the other was Delhi. In Delhi, women fought against dowry. In Delhi, they fought against bride burning. In Delhi and surrounding Rajasthan, they fought for certain rights that women should have, for example, right to education or right to literacy. This led to a very famous incident in which the Bhamar Devi was brutally oppressed and brutally raped by the strong men of a panchayat. This led to a case in the Supreme Court and resulted in a very, very important judgment, the Vishakha judgment, which has now become an act for the prevention and prohibition of oppression against women. Now, Vishakha judgment and the other act that we have, which relates to domestic violence, these are the two major important interventions that the state makes now in order to protect women, for which women have fought because this is an area where they wanted to assert their identities. For example, in colleges, even in this college, or in the universities, or in the secretariat, or in the army, navy, air force, wherever women are, they must have an anti-harassment cell, the sexual harassment cell as it is known as. Most of the institutions still do not have such cells. And even if they have these cells, they are not very active in these institutions. Some of the institutions are doing very well, but some have not yet started with the anti-sexual harassment cells. And the other is the domestic bill, in which the state government has been given the responsibility of establishing homes for women who are destitute, women who have been turned out from their homes and do not have any background to fall upon. Now, these are the two laws that women, feminists today, are fighting on, are working on, to establish the independent identity of women. But sometimes these boomerang. For example, for young girls, we have these shelter homes, and all of you know how problems cropped up last year in the context of the shelter home. The Muzaffarpur home is an example that is cited, but more or less similar conditions prevail in the homes in Bihar and the homes outside Bihar, especially in areas like Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, etc. So these are the two major interventions that women are trying to build upon so that they can have an identity and an independent identity of their own and take part, as it is said, in the participative development of women. Because earlier we talked about women in development, women's development. Now we talk about how women can be a part of the development process. And the last point that I would like to emphasize upon, that the hold of the patriarchy is still so strong in our society, that the women reservation bill, whether it is 33% reservation or 50% reservation, or whether there has to be reservation within reservation, are areas which women said we will sit, discuss and solve. This bill is never properly placed in the parliament. It is always placed in the parliament on the last day, when there are several issues that need to be discussed. And then it is said that the women's reservation bill will be discussed in the next parliamentary session. This is how for years the political role that women should have, they are being deprived of that role. And unless and until the percentage of women increase in the parliament, the percentage of women increase in the assemblies, the intervention or the participative democratic concepts actually will not emerge. We've done some work at the lowest level, the panchayati level. Bihar has also come up, not very successfully, but then subsequently in the years ahead I hope that Bihar will prove an example in terms of women's involvement at the lowest level, the panchayati level. But in Bengal and in Maharashtra we have an entire panchayat which is full of women members. There's no concept of reservation, there are only women there. So in the administration of women come forward, it's only then that women can assert their rights and play a more participative role in the development and in the growth of Indian democracy. Thank you.
Each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. Thank you, Professor Daisy Narayan, for your powerful, incisive and extremely informative keynote address, underlining the theme, women empowerment, revisioning identities, and building strategies for a participatory society. Thank you so much. With the permission of the chair, I would like to introduce our chief guest. After having passed Senior Cambridge from St. Joseph's Convent, Patna, and after completing her Masters in English and LLB from Patna University, Honorable Justice Srimati Anjana Mishra, our respected chief guest, joined the legal profession in Patna High Court in September 1986 and got training under her parents, both advocates of Patna High Court. Her ambit over her practice covered a wide range of law that included civil, criminal, and constitutional matters, noteworthy amongst these being service matters. It would not be out of place to mention that Justice Mishra, while she was still at the bar, was an empaneled lawyer for several institutions and had even piloted the cause of including women lawyers as public prosecutors in the various district courts. Honorable Justice Srimati Anjana Mishra was elevated to the bench on 15th May 2014. Ma'am, we feel extremely privileged to have you in our midst this morning, and I request you to address all of us present here.
Calling here. A very heartfelt gratitude to the convener and to Father for calling me here to address this gathering, which is so much familiar to me, not for the reason that I have been here before, but for the reason that I have been brought up in a missionary institution. The very atmosphere brings nostalgia, and the aura which this place has encourages me to educate what little I know about women empowerment. You see, as a daughter, what I noticed most was that my father always strove to encourage not only my mother but also us and bring us at par with each and every member, the sons, the uncles, and we were always felt empowered. This is the basic reason why I am here today to address you. Empowerment first begins at home, especially of women, be it a girl child, be it the mother of the house, or any other person. St. Xavier's is an institution with a mission. And how it is going to go about empowering women is anybody's guess. Because any empowerment cannot originate without education. What I learned from this institution is that it has been established across the country, and they have felt that in all arenas, be it from childhood, even management, education, everything, they have taken up as a cause, and they have engineered such institutions which are imparting education all over. Their particular interest in the field of marginalized women is really something which is awesome. Father, of course, has worked in this line. And you see, these marginalized women, they need to be empowered more because they are suffering from a double jeopardy. Basically, women suffer because of patriarchy. But these marginalized women, those belonging to the less economically sufficient family, they suffer because of the fact that they are Dalits, they are not from the upper castes, and within their household itself, they suffer from such ignominy that they are able to rise. Education of such women, the Dalits, is a cause which is being taken up, and this is where we must strive from the most deprived, so that if the most deprived rise, there will be no reason why any other person cannot rise. So coming to this issue, I will also say that once such small simple actions from each of us in this participative society, as the word has been coined for this very seminar, begins, we must all realize that education and empowerment both go hand in hand. So you see, women issues and their empowerment is also closely intertwined with human rights. The three revolutions which came about, the English, American, and the French, they remained fruitless for the reason that it did not address itself to the cause of women. But then the 1791 declaration by Olympic Ghosh, who declared the rights of women. She carved out the rights in her articles, and she advocated that free communication of thoughts and opinions is the basic concept which must be followed towards emancipation and empowerment of women. She said, being equal in the eyes of law must be equally admitted to all honors. This thought was first coined in France. And France also became the first country to create a document and decriminalize homosexuality. We have done it today in our country, though it is receiving various responses of both types. I think slowly and steadily it will come to be an accepted feature in our society as well. That which was done in France originally came to be honored by Mary Wollstonecraft. She was an English scholar who also wrote a book known as Vindication of Rights of Women. And in that she made a passionate appeal for women's education, because that is the basic tool with which disempowerment of the underprivileged the word underprivileged will be disempowered and they will become privileged. That is the word. We have so many acts in our country which have been brought, but how much and how far are they being implemented? You see, the Immoral Trafficking Act, Prevention Act, which was very much brought into our country, what was its effect? Women who were being trafficked, they were not being treated, they were treated as accused, they were treated as criminals. But with time and with the approach of the feminists, the word accused was substituted by the word criminals. Victims. Now, the victim approach has shed a different light on that act altogether. The act provided for women police officers. Where were there any women police officers? Women were taken into custody from brothels, dumped into the police stations, and, as was pointed out, even misused, abused, sexually, they were harassed, and then finally placed before the magistrates as an accused. Now that concept has changed mercifully, and they are treated like victims, and the word rehabilitation has been brought into the act. So victim rehabilitation is now the keynote of that act. Women police officers have been appointed even in our state. That is to my knowledge because I was associated with the PIL in which we had filed that special anti-human trafficking units should be established in all the districts and women police officers be appointed and so forth. Now, this aspect has brought much relief in that sector. But still, what happens is that we are engulfed by such shackles of patriarchy that even in remote areas of our state, we find that intergenerational generational prostitution is going on. What would you do if the fathers and the brothers become the pimps? And once the victims are rescued and put in childcare homes, they are released in favor of the guardians, so-called guardians, and then dumped back into the dark hole of prostitution. How then would we empower these women? The only tool available to us is education. Instead of putting them back in such homes or corrective institutions, as it is being called, they should be put back, young girls, into educational establishments, into vocational training centers, guided and provided stage help so that they can be put back into the social network and their involvement in society, which is participative society, be brought about. So this is an aspect which must be seriously considered at all levels, and the social reformers and those who are associated with social welfare projects, they must take up. Vocational training centers of such women who have been deprived of their basic human rights, that must be brought into existence, and there the trainings which will be empowered will truly empower them. The Domestic Violence Act, the Criminal Amendment Act of 2013, these were really good measures which were brought about, but unfortunately these acts are yet to be implemented in its entirety. Though off and on notices are issued under the Domestic Violence Act, what actually is achieved is a far cry. There it is the role of the courts and also the role of the social activists which come into play. If the social activists are also positioned in such courts, their efforts can eliminate all the legal wrangles which arise, such as service of notice, such as deliberate abstention from court proceedings, roping in the social media to create an atmosphere where the girls are taken back into the domestic setup without being harassed. So this also is a tool which the social activists must take up to empower women and to ensure that the laws which have been framed are implemented in its entirety. You see, we women have now come out into the world and we are working shoulder to shoulder with all men. But the deliberate attempt is to pull them back. And for that reason, very often we hear about sexual harassment at workplaces. This concept about sexual harassment at workplaces is such a menace, and it is a method of bringing down the women who have already been empowered. Their education has empowered them and brought them out into the society. In 1933 itself, the ILO seminar at Manila. It was a conference and they recognized that sexual harassment at workplace was a form of gender discrimination against women. Our fundamental rights, our constitution, also recognizes gender equality, and Article 14, 19, 21, 32, 41, all these are articles which help us to ensure that gender equality is maintained within our social sector. But what really happens is that now and then such acts of discrimination are practiced which necessitate the interference of courts. The Bhavri Devi case, in which a woman who was opposing child marriage was stripped and she was raped, and thereafter some social activists took up the cause and was followed by the famous Vishakha case, wherein the Supreme Court set out guidelines. But that was in the year 1997, and the guidelines again were not being followed. What was happening in all workplaces was a far cry. They were just using women to mold them into their own setup if they went out to work. The patriarchal setup was prevailing everywhere. Though Vishakha guidelines characterized several types of sexual harassment, what was found out in the famous case of Apparel Export Corporation versus A.K. Chopra. In that case, the victim was bombarded with 140 questions. Such questions taken in open court by a victim would never result in any conviction, because this in itself is a form of harassment. And then came the Medha Kotwal case. That was another case where they appeared and informed the Supreme Court that despite all such guidelines, their orders were but a myth. And then again the Vishakha guidelines were reiterated therein. So, it was given that now rules must come into being. So, between 1997, it was only after the case of Medha Kotwal in 2012 that the Act came to be framed. 30th Act. So, you see, in the earlier case, what happened was, though guidelines had been framed, nothing was really being done. Awareness was there, but yet patriarchal approach was so much that it clouded every organization. Committees were not framed. And now the Supreme Court has made it mandatory for all organizations, be it in hospitals, in public sectors, in NGOs, in sports institutes, even in courts, all organizations, be it government, non-governmental, they have to form committees. So, the employee concept, that only an employee would come in to raise its word, was further widened, and now any person So this is the difference. The concept of workplace also in the 2013 Act has been changed. That includes even marketplaces, fields, all these have been expanded. It also lays down on the employee an obligation, on the employer an obligation to comply with all the provisions of the Act. So the employer must come forward to constitute the committee in every organization. I was reading a book read by Catherine McKinnon. She is a lawyer and she has worked deeply for the cause of women empowerment through her legal research at work. And she said that I went to law school because I wanted to change the world for women. And indeed she has. She has written a book by the name of Butterfly Politics. In that book she has stated that even the minuscule movement of a butterfly's wings can create a world of difference. She stated that the status quo which is existing in society can change if every woman contributes her little bit, and that itself will create a large complex reverberations which will eventually end in empowered people. So with this, thank you very much for giving me patient hearing, and I hope.
When Dame Rebecca West was called an early feminist, she said, and I quote, "I myself have never been able to find out precisely what feminism is. I only know that people call me a feminist whenever I express sentiments that differentiate me from a doormat." Vibrant and dynamic, our next speaker wears many hats. Her professional profile includes being media consultant to various organizations, senior reporter in Rashtriya Sahara and Nayi Duniya, program officer media, Greenpeace India, and presently she freelances as reporter for Delhi-based Hindi magazines. Her publications include बालिका शोषण की अनकही कहानी and Zakhma Jitne The. Her area of research include status of women journalists of India with focus on Bihar, अखबारों में हिंसा, and on magnitude of witch hunting in Bihar. She has participated in many workshops and mentoring programs and was part of an international campaign to end violence against women at Dhaka, Bangladesh in 2010. She was awarded the Ladli Media Award for Gender Sensitivity for Best News Report in Print. Presently, she is working president, National Federation of Indian Women Bihar, member Bihar Women Network, and president South Asian Women in Media. I'm talking about social activist and freelance journalist, Ms. Nivedita Jha.
शुक्रिया निवेदा जी इतना लंबा चौड़ा मेरा परिचय देने के लिए। मैं इस कॉलेज के प्रिंसिपल फादर ईशान का और निर्जा जी का और माला जी की बहुत शुक्रगुजार हूँ कि उन्होंने बुलाया और आज आप लोगों से बातचीत करने का मौका। बातचीत तो नहीं करेंगे, एक तरफा बात है, हम ही बोल रहे हैं और आप सुन रहे हैं लेकिन हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि अगली बार जब ऐसा कोई सेमिनार हो तो हर सेशन के बाद एक क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन या छोटी टिप्पणियों की बात हो, ताकि हम ये जान सकें कि हमारे युवा भी क्या सोचते हैं। मुझको माफ करेंगे, मैं हिंदी में आप सबसे बात करूंगी और उम्मीद है कि आप सब हिंदी जरूर समझते होंगे। नमस्ते। बहुत शुक्रिया दोस्तों, मुझको बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है आपके बीच आकर, इसलिए कि मुझको लगता है कि मैं ज्यादा युवा हो गई हूँ आपके बीच आकर और अपने कॉलेज के दिनों की याद ताज़ा हो रही है। मैं पटना यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ती थी और काफ़ी लंबा समय हो गया है। उम्र से तो ज़रूर आपसे काफ़ी बड़ी हूँ, लेकिन मेरा दिमाग आपके बीच ही है। इसको कहते हैं दिल तो बच्चा है। तो मुझे याद आ रहा है, मैं कॉलेज से बात शुरू करूँगी क्योंकि इस तरह की बात हो रही थी और अभी भी मैं देख रही हूँ कि हम 82 में फर्स्ट ईयर में थे और 82 के बाद जब इतने लंबे साल हो गए हैं तो क्या तब्दीली हुई है हमारे युवा दोस्तों के बीच, हमारे इस देश में, हमारे बीच जो महिलाएं हैं जो काम कर रही हैं, जो युवा लड़कियां हैं, तो किस तरह की तब्दीली हो रही है मैंने देखा है पुरानी पीढ़ी से लेकर और अभी तक क्या हो रहा है। और आज हम यहाँ क्यों मिल रहे हैं? जाहिर सी बात है कि हम बातचीत करने के लिए आए। मुझको याद है कि मैं पॉलिटिकल साइंस में पढ़ती थी, मेरा वो सब्जेक्ट था, और जब हम जिस क्लास में थे वहाँ सिर्फ 3 लड़कियाँ थी। तो और उस वक्त माहौल ऐसा नहीं था कि बहुत इत्मीनान से लड़के लड़कियां बात करें। आप शुक्रगुजार कहिए अपनी पुरानी पीढ़ी का कि आप एक दूसरे से बात कर सकते हैं, मिल सकते हैं। हमारे समय में ये बातें नहीं थी और हम अपनी पुरानी पीढ़ी के शुक्रगुजार हैं कि उन्होंने जो जमीन तैयार की कि हम कम से कम कॉलेज जा सके, हम पढ़ाई कर सके। हमारी पुरानी पीढ़ी ने जो हमारे लिए जमीन तैयार की और हमने जो जमीन तैयार की उसमें अब आप आ रहे हैं, आगे पढ़ रहे हैं, निकल रहे हैं। हम 3 लड़कियां थे, उसमें एक लड़की थी जो बाहर से आई थी और थोड़ी हमारे समय के हिसाब से थोड़ी मॉडर्न थी, जीन्स पहनती थी। अब तो जीन्स पहनना कोई मॉडर्निटी का नहीं है, वो हमारे कंफर्टेबल होने की बात है कि हम कंफर्ट फील करते हैं, बसों में जाते हैं, भागते हैं, दौड़ते हैं। इसलिए पहनावे की आज़ादी तो होनी चाहिए। ये दुर्भाग्य है कि हमारे देश में खाने पीने, रहने, पहनने, बोलने सारे आज़ादी पर अंकुश अभी भी लग रहे हैं। तो जब हम क्लास में घुसे, 3 लड़कियां टीचर के साथ घुसते थे और टीचर के साथ बाहर निकलते थे, तो एक दिन देखा कि क्लास के बोर्ड पर लिखा है उस लड़की का नाम लेकर कि कविता मैं तेरे प्यार में कवि हो गया। तो हम लोग बड़े शर्मिंदा हुए, हालांकि थोड़ा मजा भी आया, लेकिन मैं गई और वो लड़की बड़ी एम्बैरेस हो रही थी। तो मैं गई और मैंने बोर्ड से वो लिखा हुआ मिटाया और हमने कहा कि दोस्तों, ये लिखने के पहले बेहतर ये होता कि तुम दोस्ती करते और तब ये बात तुम उस लड़की से कहते, क्योंकि प्रेम जो है वो जिम्मेदारी है, प्रेम जो है वो मजाक नहीं है, प्रेम जो है वो अपमान नहीं है। और इस देश में, इस दुनिया में मोहब्बत की सबसे ज्यादा जरूरत है। फैज का नाम सुना है आप लोगों ने? कितने लोगों ने सुना? जरा हाथ उठाइए। बहुत कम लोगों ने सुना है और जरूर पढ़िए। अगर फैज हमारे समय के तो बहुत ही हमारे दिल के करीब के शायर थे। आपके समय में भी कुछ लोग हैं जो आपके दिल के करीब होंगे, लेकिन अपनी पुरानी पीढ़ी को भी पढ़िए, वो आज भी जिंदा है। वो कहते थे कि वो लोग बड़े खुशकिस्मत थे जो इश्क को काम समझते थे और काम से आशिकी करते थे। हम जीते जी मशरूफ हुए, कुछ इश्क किया, कुछ काम किया और अंत में तंग आकर दोनों को अधूरा छोड़ दिया। तो मेरी गुजारिश है कि काम भी करिए और इश्क भी करिए। ये बात इसलिए कह रही हूँ कि इन दिनों देश में मोहब्बत करने में पहरा है और मोहब्बत की बात जब हम करते हैं, एक इंसान अगर है तो इस दुनिया में बगैर मोहब्बत के वो रह ही नहीं सकता है। एक इंसान बनने के लिए मोहब्बत की जरूरत है और इस देश को मोहब्बत से ही बदला जा सकता है, नफरत से नहीं। और हम सब जानते हैं कि जब हम ये बात कर रहे हैं, कुछ बच्चों को हंसी आ रही है मोहब्बत के नाम पे। दिल में मोहब्बत की अलग जलाइए दोस्तों, तो हम शायद इस दुनिया को बदल पाएंगे। मैं इसलिए कह रही हूँ कि पत्रकार हूँ, खबरें 25 सालों से अलग अलग अखबारों के लिए काम किया, खबरें लिखती थी, तो हर रोज जब अखबार आप भी पलटते हैं और हम भी जब लिखते थे तो हमारे पास महिला हिंसा की लगातार घटनाएं होती थी। कभी कभी हमारे अखबार के एडिटर भी कहते थे कि तुम क्या हमेशा महिला हिंसा पर लिखती रहती हो। तो उनका भी नजरिया ये थे कि जब दुख बहुत हो और रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में दुख शामिल हो तो आप उसको ध्यान देना छोड़ देते हैं, आप उस पर कोई तवज्जो देना छोड़ देते हैं। तो मैं देखती थी कि हर रोज वैसी कोई घटना है कि किसी लड़की के साथ कुछ हुआ, किसी महिला को जला दिया गया दहेज के कारण, किसी के साथ बलात्कार हुआ, किसी ने मोहब्बत में ना कहा तो उसके चेहरे पे तेजाब फेंक दिया, और आज भी ये चीजें हो रही हैं। मुझे बहुत उम्मीद है युवाओं से, क्योंकि ये देश युवाओं का देश है। इस देश में की सबसे बड़ी आबादी युवाओं की है, और अगर इस देश की तकदीर बदलेगी तो हमारे युवा बदलेंगे। लेकिन कैसी तकदीर, कैसा देश हम बनाना चाहते हैं और क्यों बनाना चाहते हैं? आज हम वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट की बात करने क्यों बैठे हैं? कभी कभी मुझे लगता है कि वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट से ज्यादा हम अपने युवा दोस्तों से बात करें, क्योंकि हिंसा की जड़ें कहाँ हैं? डेजी दी ने या इसके पहले वक्ताओं ने बहुत विस्तार से आपको बताया कि हमारे पूर्वजों ने किस तरह के फाइट्स किए। इन्होंने हमारे संविधान के अंदर जो हमें अधिकार मिले हैं उस पर, तो क्या अधिकार मिलने से, कानून बनने से न्याय मिल जाता है इस देश में? अगर कानून बना देने से न्याय मिल जाता तो इस देश में इतनी दहशतगर्दी नहीं होती। और हम जानते हैं कि पिछले दिनों बहुत सारे लोग जो ह्यूमन राइट्स पे काम करने वाले थे वो लोग गिरफ्तार किए गए। बहुत सारे लोग जो कवि थे, जो लेखक थे, जो पत्रकार थे, वो गिरफ्तार किए गए। बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स जो पढ़ाई करते हैं वो लोग, उन पे चार्जेस दिए गए। इसलिए इस देश में हमें अभिव्यक्ति की आजादी पर बात करनी होगी, हमें हिंसा के खिलाफ बात करनी होगी, हमें औरतों की आजादी की बात हम तभी कर पाएंगे जब हम सब तरह की आजादी के पक्ष में होंगे। ऐसा नहीं होगा कि हम औरतों की आजादी की बात करेंगे और हम दलितों की आजादी की बात नहीं करेंगे और हम अल्पसंख्यकों की आजादी की बात नहीं करेंगे। हम जो युवा साथी हैं उनके पढ़ने लिखने बोलने चलने की आजादी की बात नहीं करेंगे। सब एक दूसरे से लिंक है। अब आप सब शायद जानते होंगे कि लिंग का क्या मतलब होता है, और हमारे दुनिया में दो ही लिंग हैं, एक स्त्रीलिंग और एक पुल्लिंग। आजकल थर्ड जेंडर को भी हम एक लिंग में शामिल करते हैं और वो बहुत जरूरी नहीं है। तो जब हम पैदा हुए तो एक ही जैसे थे, दो कान, दो हाथ, नाक, थोड़ी बहुत हमारी शारीरिक बनावट में फर्क था। लेकिन फिर ऐसा क्यों हुआ कि लड़की लड़की हो गई और लड़का लड़का हो गया? तो दरअसल समाज ने दो डब्बा बनाया और एक डब्बे में लड़के को डाला और एक डब्बे में लड़की को डाला। सिमोन de Beauvoir का नाम सुना है आप लोगों ने? अगर आप लोगों ने नहीं सुना है तो पढ़िए उनको। वो कहती है कि औरतें पैदा नहीं होती, बनाई जाती। तो समाज दरअसल गढ़ता है। अगर मैं आप में से पूछूं किसी युवा साथी से कि लड़कियां कैसी होती हैं, तो आप क्या कहेंगे? कैसे तय करेंगे कि लड़कियां कैसी होती हैं? उसके बाल लंबे होते हैं, वो सलवार सूट पहनती है, या वो कोमल होती है, उसके दिल कोमल होते हैं, वो मजबूत नहीं होती है। ये आम धारणा है? और अगर मैं किसी युवा साथी से पूछूं कि मर्द कैसे होते हैं कि उनके बाल छोटे होते हैं, पैंट शर्ट पहनते हैं, वो मजबूत होते हैं, वो रोते नहीं हैं, मर्दानगी है, रो कैसे सकते हैं वो। तो हम लोगों ने तय किया हुआ है कि समाज को हम स्त्री ऐसी ही होगी और पुरुष ऐसी ही होगी। अगर आप में से कोई बच्चा जो लड़का है वो अगर रो दे तो हम क्या कहते हैं, यहाँ भारत या बिहार में कौन सा स्लैंग यूज करते हैं, बहुत महंगा है कहते हैं। और अगर किसी कोई लड़की बहुत ताकतवर हो, जिसकी जो उदाहरण डेजी नारायण ने दिया, तो हम क्या कहते हैं, बड़ी मर्दानी कहते हैं। यानी जो वीरता के जो सारे कुछ हैं सिंबल्स, वो हम मर्दों के लिए देखते हैं, और जो कोमलता, प्रेम, त्याग, वो सब हम औरतों में देखते हैं। ये मानवीय गुण है, ये हम सब में है, जितना एक औरत में है उतना एक पुरुष में है। ये गुण कोई अलग अलग नहीं है, लेकिन हमने तय किया कि लड़कों को तो एकदम ठोस बनना है, रो नहीं लड़कियों की तरह, चूड़ी पहन के बैठे। ये सारे सिंबल्स हैं जो हम इस्तेमाल करते हैं। मैं निजी लोगों से कहती हूँ, हम 4 बहनें हैं और मेरी सबसे छोटी बहन जब पैदा हो रही थी, चौथी, तो मेरे पिता को सब लोग बड़े दुखी होके देख रहे थे कि भाई 3 है और बेटा नहीं है। जब चौथी बेटी पैदा हुई तो लोगों ने पूछा, मेरे पिता खुलसते हुए गए कि भाई क्या हुआ। तो जो माँ को देखने के लिए गांव से हमारी बुआ या चाची कोई थी, वो बड़ी दुखी थी, कुछ बोल ही नहीं रही थी। पिता ने कहा कि बताइए क्या हुआ। तो वह दुखी होके गई कि क्या हुआ, बेटी हुई। तो मेरे पिता बहुत खुश हो गए और रसगुल्ला लेके आए, वो दिए। वो बहुत हैरान थी कि चौथी बेटी के बाद भी एक पिता रसगुल्ला लेके आता है। तो ये सारे उदाहरण मैं इसलिए दे रही हूँ कि हम ये जाने कि हमारे समाज में किस तरह से हमें खाने में बदले हैं, किस तरह से हम मर्दों को अलग तरह से देखते हैं, औरतों को हम अलग से देखते हैं, किस तरह से ये जो खाना है वही हमको हिंसा में तब्दील करता है। और दुनिया के आंकड़े कहते हैं, या भारत के जो क्राइम रिपोर्ट है, कि हर साल 1600 औरतें मार दी जाती हैं अलग अलग तरह, उनमें से कई औरतें जला दी जाती हैं। और बिहार की तो बात छोड़े, बिहार में तो शेल्टर होम एक बहुत बड़ा मसला है, जहाँ बच्चियां थी और उनके बलात्कार हुए, ये मामला है। तो हम सब जो युवा हैं, उसी को, इस दुनिया को बदलना है और हमें देखना है। पूर्वजों की बहुत बात हो रही थी, हम सबको सीखना होगा। मैं आपको बताना चाहती हूँ कि रुकैया बेगम थी, आज से 100 साल पहले की महिला। उन्होंने भागलपुर में पहला मुसलमान महिलाओं के लिए स्कूल खोला। और ये आश्चर्य की बात है, आप समझिए 100 साल पहले जब लड़कियों को पढ़ने लिखने की इजाजत नहीं थी, उस वक्त उनको बुलाया गया और उन्होंने स्कूल खोला। बाद में वो कलकत्ता गई तो उन्होंने अपने एक संस्मरण में लिखा कि किस तरह से स्कूल खोलना उस वक्त मुश्किल था। आप जो हम लोग आराम से यहाँ बैठे हैं, पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं, घूम रहे हैं, उस वक्त स्कूल में पढ़ना लड़कियों के लिए कितना मुश्किल था। और पहली बार जब वो स्कूल खोली और बच्चों के घरों में जा के कहा कि आप अपने लड़कियों को स्कूल भेजिए, तो वो जो बस थी, वो जब रास्ते पर निकली तो उस बस में कोई खिड़की नहीं थी। और गर्मी की दिन और बसों में लड़कियां, और वो लड़कियां बेहोश होकर गिरने लगी। जब कई लड़कियां बेहोश होकर बसों में गिरने लगी क्योंकि हवा के आने का कोई रुख नहीं था, तो उनकी माओ ने आके कहा कि आप कैसा स्कूल खोल रही हैं, हमारी बच्चियां मर जाएंगी। तो उसने कहा कि भाई अगर हम उसमें खिड़की लगा देंगे तो जो मुल्ला लोग हैं और जो कट्टर लोग हैं वही विरोध करेंगे। तो बहुत हंगामे के बाद उन्होंने खिड़कियां लगाई और खिड़की पे पर्दे लगाए। और जब खिड़कियों के पर्दे उड़ने लगे तो कुछ दिन बाद कुछ कट्टर लोगों ने उनको चिट्ठी लिखी और कहा कि मैडम, ये जो बस जाती है जिसमें लड़कियां स्कूल पढ़ने जाती हैं, उसकी खिड़की के पर्दे उड़ते हैं और लड़कियों का चेहरा देखता है, वो बेपर्दा होती है। तो अगर आपने खिड़कियों को बंद नहीं किया तो हम आपके स्कूल को चलने नहीं देंगे। तो वो बहुत परेशान थी कि आखिर हम क्या करें। तो मैं ये उदाहरण इसलिए दे रही हूँ कि आप जो आज यहाँ बैठे हैं, ये बहुत बड़ी ताकत है कि हमको हमारा हथियार मिला है पढ़ने का। हम पढ़ के अपने जीवन को, इस देश को, इस दुनिया को बदल सकते हैं। हम एक बेहतर समाज बना सकते हैं जहाँ हिंसा के लिए कोई जगह नहीं होगी, जहाँ हम समानता की बात कर सकेंगे, जहाँ जाति के नाम पे, धर्म के नाम पे, संप्रदाय के नाम पे हमें अलग नहीं किया गया। और मैं तो कहती हूँ कि औरतों की तो कोई जाति नहीं होती। तेजी नारायण ने बताया कि हम जब पैदा होते हैं तो पिता के अधीन रहते हैं, शादी होती है तो पति के अधीन, और बूढ़े होते हैं तो बेटों के अधीन। तो हमारा अस्तित्व कहाँ है? वो जो अलग अस्तित्व है उसको बनाने के लिए हम इस पूरे समाज की भागीदारी, और लड़कियों से ज्यादा हमारे युवा लड़कों को बदलने की जरूरत है। उन्हें समझने की जरूरत है कि हम कैसे अपने समाज की लड़कियों को आगे बढ़ाएं, कैसे हम एक दोस्त का माहौल बनाएं, कैसे हम वो जो घरों में जो विभाजन है, चाहे वो काम का विभाजन है, पढ़ने का विभाजन है, कैसे हम तोड़ें। मैं तो शुक्रगुजार हूँ कि कुकर और डाइनिंग टेबल की वजह से कम हम पूरा परिवार साथ खाता है और माँ के थाली में कुछ मिलता है। मैंने देखा अपनी माँ को कि खाना बनाती थी, 6 बच्चे थे और ऊपर से लोगों का आना जाना, उसकी थाली में अंत में कुछ रहता नहीं था और हम में से कोई नहीं देखता था कि उसकी थाली में कुछ बचा है कि नहीं। लेकिन जब डाइनिंग टेबल बना और सारे खाने इस पे लगने लगे तो सबकी थाली में कुछ होता था। तो ये बदलाव है, छोटे छोटे बदलाव से हम शायद बदल सकते हैं। अगर हमारे युवा साथी अपने घर जाएं और अपनी माँ की किचन में जाएं, क्योंकि हम मानते हैं कि किचन में काम करना हमारा काम नहीं है, मर्दों का काम नहीं। आज भी यही मानसिकता है। अगर ये आजादी औरतों को मिली भी है तो वो इसलिए कि वो 2 पैसा कमा के ला रही है, लेकिन काम के दोहरे मार और घर के भीतर भी इसको काम करना पड़ता है। एक औरत और एक मर्द दोनों काम करते हैं और दोनों घर आते हैं तो खाना बनाने घर की पूरी जिम्मेदारी एक औरत की होती है, मर्द की नहीं। अगर वो कुछ कर देता है तो उसकी मर्जी, उसकी भरमसार है। ये दुनिया है, इस दुनिया को हमें और आपको बदलना होगा। हमें अपनी माँ को, अपनी बहन को सपोर्ट करना होगा, अपनी दोस्तों को सपोर्ट करना होगा और कहना होगा कि ये दुनिया हम सब के लिए, हम सबों ने ये दुनिया बनाई और इस दुनिया में हिंसा के लिए कोई जगह नहीं है। इस दुनिया में दोस्ती के लिए जगह है, इस दुनिया में अमन के लिए जगह है, इस दुनिया में आजादी के लिए जगह है और वैसे ही आजादी के लिए हम काम करेंगे। और मैं कुछ बातें जो आपसे कहना चाहती हूँ कि धर्म के नाम पर, जाति के नाम पे जो हमें भड़काया गया, हमें हमारे बीच दीवार किया गया। तो जॉन स्टुअर्ट मिल एक बहुत बड़े फिलोसोफर थे, वो कहते हैं कि दरअसल गुलामी की आदत पड़ जाती है, औरतों को अपनी गुलामी की आदत पड़ जाती है, क्योंकि उसे पता नहीं, एक गुलाम को पता ही नहीं होता है कि वो गुलामी कर रहा है। और जब एक औरत को गुलामी ही करनी है, जब उसको लगता है कि हमें गुलामी ही करनी है, यही मेरी नियति है, तो वो कोशिश करती है कि हम जो मालिक चुने उसमें से बेहतर मालिक चुने, जो थोड़ा मेरे प्रति दयावान हो, जो मेरे प्रति नजदीक हो। तो ये चीजें हैं और ये सूरत बदली नहीं है दोस्तों। आज भी अगर औरतें मारी जा रही हैं, आज हम यहाँ बैठे हैं और देश के किसी कोने में एक बच्ची के साथ बलात्कार हो रहा होगा, तो ये हमारी और आपकी जिम्मेदारी है, युवा साथियों की जिम्मेदारी है कि हम एक सुंदर और बेहतर देश बनाएं। मैं और लंबा नहीं बोलूंगी क्योंकि हमारे मेहमानों को जाना है। आप सब मिले और हम मिलते रहें। इसके साथ फैज की अंतिम नज़्म, बोल के लब आजाद है तेरे, बोल जुबान अब तक तेरी है, तेरा सुतवा जिस्म है तेरा, बोल की जान तक तेरी। बहुत शुक्रिया।
get out of our tendency to put men and women into boxes in which they must fit. Why is a woman who works called a working woman, while a man who works is not called a working man? I've always wondered. As always, it's a pleasure to hear you speak, ma'am. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them, said Maya Angelou. That probably voices the never say die spirit every woman should have. They tried to bury us. They did not know we were seeds. I now invite my colleague, Assistant Professor Dr. Niharika Kumari, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Nijana. A very warm and graceful morning to one and all present here. I, Dr. Niharika, on behalf of St. Xavier's colleges, feel privileged to propose a heartfelt vote of thanks. First of all, I wish to express my deep sense of gratitude towards our chief guest, Honorable Justice Mrs. Anjana Mishra, for taking out time from her busy schedule and oblige us with her gracious presence. Thank you very much, ma'am. I sincerely thank our chairperson, Ms. Nivedita Jha, for overwhelming us with her enlightening speech. Next, I would like to thank our guest of honor and keynote speaker, Professor D.C. Narayan, for kindly consenting to be here, for sharing her precious knowledge with all of us. I thank our organizer and principal, Father Professor T. Nishan S.J., for constant support and guidance, without which the event could not have been possible. C.S. Mala Kumari Upadhyay, the convener, and Mr. Piyush Sahai, co-convener of our National Seminar 2019, deserve a special mention and appreciation for their hard work. I sincerely thank all the delegates and our students for their encouraging presence. I thank all the media persons for covering this event. I acknowledge the cooperation and help rendered by the management for the smooth flow of this event. I would also like to thank the administrative and maintenance staff for their timely help and making the necessary arrangements. A special thank to our anchor, Ms. Neer Jalal, for beautifully anchoring this event at last. Thank a lot to one and all who are directly or indirectly involved in the program. Jai Hind, Jai Xavier. Thank you.